Hello.
Megan, can you see my my presentation?
Yep.
Good deal.
This one. Come in. Lucy, come. Go.
Oh, that's Lisa. Can you see me?
I can see you.
Oh, wonderful. And how are you this partially sunny day?
I'm doing well, thank you. Can you see my presentation?
Is it this, it was sent today. It was the secretary's report. Was that it?
No, so you should see on your screen, you should see the Planning Commission meeting.
I see that.
Okay, perfect. That's the presentation.
Ah, yeah, quick question.
Yes.
That Meadowwood Technical Center, how many acres is that?
Oh, that's a good question. It's 69, I think, something like that.
That's, okay, okay. You know, for some reason I had in the back of my mind, it was like a 6 something, but I couldn't remember what, so.
Yeah, it's been so long since we've had the hearing on that, a lot of water under the bridge. But yeah, it's something like that.
Were you around when it was Hewlett Packard?
I was not.
Yeah, and neither was I. When we moved up here, I think it was, Hewlett Packard spun off an instrument division. What was it? Agilent? No, not Agilent. Maybe it was that. I'll have to look it up. But I guess it was quite a big deal when Hewlett Packard decided to move up here and build that huge facility. That was in.
Sure it was.
Yeah, that was in I think the 1980s or thereabouts. I think it was early 80s. I'm pretty sure. And I think it was called, I have to look it up what it was called. Hewlett Packard, you know, they employed several thousand engineers. at that facility. And then they spun it out to their, it was an instrument testing division. And for some reason, I think it's Agilent, but that doesn't sound right. But still, they employed thousands, more than 1,000 engineers. And you talk about highly paid jobs.
I think you're
And
right.
then all that went to, all those jobs were offshored. And they closed the facility down and then sold it to, I guess, sold it to Jim Frank. And for a song and a prayer. And, but he's done a nice job doing something with it. You know, but now it's, you know, now what do you do with the thing? Because you're, like you're saying, call center is probably not going to be the way of the future. So anyway,
It'll be interesting to see what.
just yeah, it's just kind of interesting to the history of that property. I got to look it up now. What was it? You know how you get something stuck in your head and you kind of know, what was that? Yeah.
I was trying to explain to my grandson the fact that the ability to just Google anything, anytime, anywhere, all the time is something that's a relatively new invention. These things would pop into your head and you'd ponder on them in the old days, and maybe you'd get a chance to research a little bit, but every random thought we can just Google.
Here it is. It's Agilent Technologies.
I thought
Analytical Laboratory Instrument Manufacturing Company. Headquarters in Santa Clara. Founder, Bill Hewitt. That's it. Anyway. So you guys not involved at all in the golf course thing?
I'm totally involved in the golf course thing. I'm the de facto city, the city de facto project manager.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, me too. Just kidding, just kidding.
I'm so sorry.
Golf course thing hasn't been decided all the way yet, has it?
Oh, not even close.
That's what I thought. Yeah, okay. I didn't think I missed something.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, Ms. DG.
Hello, hello.
Okay.
Have to say hi to Tim. Didn't we just do this?
I didn't look up yet. Hi, Jen. Good to see you again. Every other Wednesday is kind of a tough one.
It appears we have everybody.
Do we? I'm
I'm
there's
checking.
Conrad, the only one that we don't have yet is Dale Robbins. I don't see him
Is he
yet.
not on there? Okay. I thought I saw it. Okay. You're right.
And give him a minute. He did email me earlier today to get the link, so I know that he's aware of the meeting. So we're just 4 o'clock right up, so we can give it another minute or two if you don't mind.
I'm okay.
Hey, Lisa,
Yeah,
so originally, the first HP building was erected in 1978. Just FYI.
interesting.
Yeah,
On the Meadowwood campus there?
Yeah.
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 It's a lot older than I ever thought it would be, but
Yeah, I was just telling Lisa that one time I was just looking online, it was like 1,200 engineers at that place. Just remarkable.
I wonder why they left.
I'll tell you why. They found that I don't know if they found it, but it was all outsourced overseas, mostly to China.
Okay.
And I mean, we heard, well, in the company that I work for, we hired quite a few of the former Agilent engineers. And I think that they felt like a lot of their technology had been stolen. And it was, they were making the same instruments and doing the same things in China for, less money. So
Yeah.
that's that.
Yeah. Well, Lisa, I think we probably ought to go ahead and start. And if Dale joins us, he joins us.
That sounds like a plan. Do you want to call it to order then?
Yeah, let's call it to order and let's get a roll call if we can.
Okay, Jim Bacher, we'll do it alphabetical. Oh, I'm sorry, you're first.
Okay, Richard Seiler,
Present.
Joe Mann,
Present.
Dale Robbins, DG Garcia,
Present.
Tim Olson,
We're here.
Stephen Ramirez,
Present.
Conrad Band,
Present.
and Jim Bumker.
Present.
Well, very good. Well, Lisa, we've got a lot of new members today.
We do, and I thought it would be, we've got enough new members that I thought it would be worthwhile that we kind of went around the table and introduced ourselves.
Okay, I can start that, and I think everybody gets to introduce themselves, and then I hope I get everybody correct here. But anyways, my name is Richard Seiler. I moved here to Liberty Lake in 2015 after retiring from working with nuclear engineering with the Navy over in Bremerton for 33 years or so. And I wanted to do something else. So I said, why not join the Planning Commission? And so I've been on the Planning Commission probably 4 years plus or something, and have enjoyed it very much. So should I call the next person in line? Maybe
Yeah,
Dale's
that would
not
be
here.
helpful.
DG, how about you? You're one of our new members.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be a part of this team. I moved to Liberty Lake officially January 1st, but I had been here since December 2015. I've lived here ever since. I retired from the Board of Vocational Nursing and Psychiatric Technicians, State of California, and I'm happy to be a resident of Liberty Lake.
Very good. Let's see. Now Tim.
I'm Tim Olson. I am an active real estate agent here in residential real estate in Liberty Lake. I live over in the River District. I just celebrated 8 years in our house last Sunday. We love it here, and very passionate about the city. I'm president of the Kiwanis. I'm also on the library board of trustees, and very passionate about our community.
Joe.
My name's Joe Mann. I'm retired real estate agent for 23 years in Spokane. Moved to Liberty Lake in November of 2018. We built a home here with Camden Homes, and love living here. And I had been on the planning commission in the city of Spokane Valley and wanted to see what I could do to contribute to Liberty Lake. So this is my second appointment and I'm enjoying it thoroughly.
I'm going to go. Jim, you're one of our new members.
Yeah, Jim Bunker. I moved here with my wife in 2004. It was for a job. I was working for a company called Relion. Most people know it as Vista Labs, but it was a spinoff of Avista. And I was the chief financial officer and kind of a chief operating officer. Retired in 2011. And interestingly enough, at one point in time, there were 4 generations of us here in Liberty Lake. My younger son, no, I'm sorry, my older son, he moved here in 2007. And of course, he has 2 grandkids. And then my mother, who was in a assisted care in St. Louis, Missouri, which is where we're from, she moved into, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank now, the home there on Mission. And she was with us until 2019. She died when she was almost 99 years old. But for a while there, we had 4 generations, guardian angel, I'm sorry. And so anyway, we love Liberty Lake.
Very good. Thank you. Conrad?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. So I'll be on video, but I am driving. Fortunately stopped. So Conrad Band, I've been in Liberty Lake since 2018 over in the River District, built there with Greenstone. Life has taken me a lot of different directions. So that's why I'm actually grew up in Spokane Valley, East Valley, Eastern Washington University, but I actually worked down at Children's Hospital Los Angeles in California. Hearing about all of the retired folks that are here, I am jealous, but I have some more time to put in first. So definitely look forward to working with the new members and those that have been here before as well. And love being part of this group and contributing back to our wonderful city. Excuse me.
And Stephen.
Well, hey everybody, I'm Stephen Ramirez. I am have been a resident of Liberty Lake since July of 20 when we moved back, and about to retire from the military, and we've got that going on. So getting ready to start a second career, and been on the planning commission. We're about to, I think we just wrapped up year 1. So yeah, on year 2 now. So enjoying it.
Very good. Well, welcome everybody. A new year and a very good planning commission I think we have in front of us. So.
And Mr. Chair, Dale Robbins just joined us.
Oh, did he? Oh,
He
good.
did.
I just checked on that and it wasn't there. Okay. Dale? You might be on mute if you're talking. Dale, are you there? Dale, if you're there, you're on mute, I think, still.
He is on mute still.
Yeah.
There we are. There we go.
Oh, there he goes. Okay. Dale, we were introducing all our members of the Planning Commission. If you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Did you hear what I said?
Technology is great when it works, and all right.
Did you hear what I said, Dale? I asked you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself. We went through and introduced all our new commissioners as well as existing commissioners, which I'm sorry you missed, but.
Okay. Yeah, I apologize. My name is Dale Robbins. I live up in Legacy Ridge. I am an attorney, a medical doctor, and a state judge for work for unemployment in Louisiana.
Okay, thank you. So welcome everybody again, and we can do our agenda review, I guess. Lisa, you want to do that?
Yeah, so the next item up is just a review of the agenda. We have several items under general business, and then we'll have a workshop discussion regarding the 2022 work program and some potential projects we could be looking at. And then reports, secretary's report, and planning commissioner reports. And we will wrap it up with citizens' comments.
Well, very good. And it looks like we do have some citizens online too.
We
So,
do.
very good. Let's look at the minutes. Does anybody have any comments to the minutes before we move to look at approving from November 10th meeting 2021? Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes?
Second, please.
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Okay, that approves the minutes. Where am I at now? Back to, gotta get the right screen going. So now, how about our planning? Did anybody have any comments? We're also part of our packet was the 2022 Planning Commission meeting schedule through the year of 2022. Anybody have any comments or concerns with that schedule? Can I get someone to make a motion to approve the meeting schedule then?
I'll motion.
I'll
And-
second.
Okay, everybody in favor of the approving the 2022 Planning Commission meeting schedule, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. So this one,
So, Mr. Chairman, the last item under general business, now we did elect the chair and vice chair last January. It's a 2-year term. So for our new members, edification, Rick Seiler is our chair and Joe Mann is our vice chair, and their terms expire December 31st of this year. So they will be up for re-election potentially, or the positions will be up for election January of 2023. However, our design review committee, we have 3 members remaining from last year. However, the design committee members, that is a term that runs for 2 years, and that expired technically December 31st. Although I've corralled the members to help me out with a project already in January. So, but we are looking to see. Generally, we have three members, and then anyone who's interested can also be alternates. So I've highlighted Tim Olson, Joe Mann, and Stephen Ramirez have been serving in that role, and just wanted to open it up for who all might, who all might want to participate in that. Joe, maybe you might want to share kind of what it is and how often and what kind of time commitment it is.
Sure. The nice thing about the design review is we get a chance to take a look at what new buildings, and particularly industrial buildings, are going to look like within the city, and to approve those or not to approve them. And we have actually had several successes on getting people to either tone down some of the colorization of buildings, if you will, or pep them up when they were mostly blacks and grays and that kind of thing. It does give us a unique opportunity to look at and to help guide what our city is going to continue to look like and what it will look like in the future. So we meet as needed. I think the most we've ever dealt with at any one time were 4 designs, as I remember. Normally it's 1 or 2, but we are a very attractive place, not only for our residents, but also for businesses. And so it does keep us on our toes, and we do get like a week's notice. I don't think we've ever had a meeting go longer than an hour. But it's well worth the time and effort to take a look and see what's coming.
Thank you, Joe. And just a couple things I would share for our new council members. We do have architectural design standards that guide the design review committee in their review of these plans. And the other thing I will say is that it looks like we're going to have a pretty robust year going forward. I've had 5 design review or preliminary applications meetings in the last 2 weeks. So I'm expecting that this is going to be a relatively busy committee this year. But again, as Joe indicated, the time commitments generally aren't great, and we try and schedule them so that it's convenient for you and that or the members, and that we keep our developers moving forward. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. So I guess what we're looking for today is to find out who might be interested in participating in this, or for some of our existing members, maybe you're interested in continuing or not continuing.
I have to say I'm interested in continuing.
Lisa, so would I. I enjoy the committee.
Same for me, Lisa. I agree. I wouldn't mind staying on as well.
Is anyone interested in being an alternate? I think last year we had 2 alternates at one point.
Lisa, I would like to join the team as an alternate if that becomes available.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, well, that is wonderful. And so just so you know, DG, whenever we try and schedule a meeting, I email everybody on the team to see what their availability is. We always invite the alternate, and again, so it's a great way to kind of get your feet wet in design review. So thank you all for your interest in participating.
Glad you're joining us, DG.
Thank you. I'm happy as well.
Thank you. That'll be good. That's a really good committee. I was on it for a couple of years and I really enjoyed it. So that was a good thing. Well, it looks like workshop, Steph, Lisa.
Okay, well, moving on to the workshop. So let me just get I have to get on the right screen to move it forward. There we go. So basically I wanted to, Rick, you had asked me at one of our last meetings when I brought up what our work program might look like for this year. You had requested that I first kind of review what we've been through in the last few years. Now, I can't speak to what happened before I got here, so I start in 2018. But we have been a very, very busy commission since 2018, really. And what I've included on this list are all the city initiated amendments. We haven't, in addition to these, there are a number of minor amendments that were privately initiated. We have an annual cycle, an annual docket for comprehensive plan amendments and development code reviews that are privately initiated. Just so you know, the deadline for application is March 31st. And we process them within that year, generally speaking. Under Growth Management Act, we can only change our comprehensive plan once per year. It's also a way for staff to kind of manage time and work program as it relates to development code amendments, and to really plan for that. So, but this list is really the stuff that we initiated. And that includes the site plan in 2018. We did do a street tree ordinance amendment in 2019. And actually we had started in 2018 and extended into 2019. We did a total overhaul of our site plan and design review ordinance. We also implemented a flood damage prevention ordinance. And what the Planning Commission members may not know is that that was at the behest of DG Garcia. And so she was really the squeaky wheel that got that ordinance going. We also had a council initiated change for food trucks in light industrial zone. We had a mandated need to address small cell 5G wireless. Again, the Federal Communications Commission said, "Thou shalt do it, and you shall do it in this time frame." And had we not adopted this ordinance, we would have no design standards for these. We were very limited in what we could do, but it was a slog. It certainly was a slog for the Planning Commission, but obviously when you see the 5G towers here in the city of Liberty Lake and compare them to what you see in Spokane and other places, the Planning Commission had a really big impact on that. We also changed the ordinance as it related to adult family homes to align with state law. Our code was not compliant with state law. And we also handled we had a series of 5 comp plan maps that needed to be amended based upon the 2018 Central Valley School District annexation. So that was 2019 was a busy year. 2020, despite COVID, was also pretty busy. We expanded, again, council initiated ordinance to allow for RV sales and service in the C1 zone. We also expanded the zones that would allow food trucks to include commercial and mixed use zones. We had to clean up, but we had a number of cleanup items in our code. Our junk vehicle definition did not comply with the state's junk vehicle. And so that became a problem in terms of enforcement for us. So we updated that. We actually made a lot of process improvements to city code. A number of them. Also, we had a city initiated to try and clean up lot coverage and minimum and maximum lot sizes. Greenstone had come in the prior year and made some, or the prior 2 years, and made some changes, and it got our code out of kilter. So we kind of cleaned that up a little bit. We actually established new lighting standards in 2020. And this was really the standards that we had were written in 2018 I'm sorry, 2018 in the close to incorporation 2002, 2003, and they were extremely dated. So we updated those. We also had to deal with some changes to our the development regulations around building codes to make them consistent with the 2018 building code amendments, which actually didn't go into effect until 2020. That's a whole nother story. In 2021, we worked on, actually, we started the landscape ordinance in 2019. We didn't actually get through it until 2021. That was a very big lift for the Planning Commission. But we really have cleaned up the ordinance, and it's really a lot easier to administer, and a lot, we maintained the aesthetics that our community values without over regulating what needed to be involved. So that was a big improvement. We also adopted, and this was a very fast track ordinance. Last year, during the legislative session, Washington legislature added some requirements about where we need to allow for emergency sheltered, transitional, and supportive housing. And that went into effect on September 30th. Had we not adopted this code, it would have been carte blanche. But the Planning Commission really stepped up to the plate and was able to define some design standards that were consistent with the state law that helped us kind of provide some parameters and sideboards for where and how, manner and place that this was going to occur. We also made some minor revisions to our sign code related to blade, awning, and canopy signs. One of the things that was a pretty busy one last year was dealing with the Meadowwood Tech Campus zone change. It hasn't been passed yet, still to be determined, and I'll talk about that a little bit in my secretary's report. But looking to the future for 2022, there are a number of projects that are still on the docket. We will need to update our comp plan amendments or maps again this year based upon the 2021 Central Valley School District annexation. So we had another annexation, so we have to update all those maps this year as part of our annual comp plan cycle. We also have had on the docket for a while codifying the SAPs and sign code amendments, parking code amendments. And there's a couple others that are maybe initiated by our elected. So first, the zoning map. So we have to do all of our comp plan maps. We have this area here that was annexed in 2021 that will need to be added to our various comp plan maps. There's a total of 5 that need to be updated. In terms of the SAPs, this is a little bit of a challenge in that you see in our zoning map, we have these areas. All of the river district is identified as simply river district SAP. There's actually 3 zones in the river district, and there are regulations specific to that. Similarly, the area that is most commonly referred to as Stone Hill is part of the Liberty Village SAP, specific area plan. Again, they have their own regulations. This is basically SAPs are basically an overlay zone on steroids. And they go through a whole comp plan and zoning regulation amendment process to create this overlay that applies to these specific areas. So this Liberty Village, which is now Stone Hill and has had several other names through the course of its development, is also in one of these SAPs. One of the things that is particularly frustrating for either someone new to development in Liberty Lake or the citizens is that when you go to our development code, these areas are not covered. You actually have to go to a separate, the River District SAP development code or Liberty Village development code to look at those. It is somewhat of a big lift, but we'd like to see all of these incorporated, these 2 SAPs incorporated into our regular development code, which will require that we create some design standards for the overlay zones and some specific zones related to each of these SAPs, easy enough to do. But again, trying to create the design standards chapters addressing design standards as they are reflected in these SAPs will need to be done. Why is it important? It's important because it will provide us with greater transparency and ease of use for our citizens as well as developers to really understand what our development regulations are. So this is one that, as I said, we've had it on the docket for a couple years, but we haven't yet gotten to it. And it's one that I would recommend we consider for this coming year. Also, as I mentioned, we did do some sign code amendments related to blade, awning, and canopy signs last year, but we set aside the sign code more major overhaul. And we've heard complaints for years about our sign code from an ability to identify businesses and the ease in which patrons can find their businesses from a business perspective, but even probably more significantly, we our sign code today fails the standards for content neutrality, which is basically the challenge with sign codes is that there's a free speech component as well as an aesthetic component. And you have to be careful in sign language that you're not limiting your sign code, that you're not limiting free speech. And so there's a series of cases that have gone before gone through the judicial system all the way up to the Supreme Court to kind of provide the rules of the game. The most recent ruling came down, I think, in 2015, and then there was that had to do with the concept of content neutrality. It was there before. It really refined it even further. And so basically what it came down to was the concept that if you have to read a sign to know how it's regulated, it doesn't meet the standards for content neutrality. So by virtue of the fact that we have regulations for political signs, for real estate signs, for a variety of different types of signs that, again, depending upon the content, it changes how we regulate it. That is not consistent with recent case law and wouldn't pass constitutional muster. So this is one that sooner or later we have to address. I will say that this sign code amendment is a heavy lift. And in order to meet the requirements of content neutrality, I can promise you that nobody's going to be happy with how we have to deal with some of these signs. And that's just the fact. I've been through 3 or 4 sign code amendments through the course of my career, and it's never a pretty process, but it is something that we really need to address at some point.
Lisa, really quick, when we had our November meeting, there were a couple of things. I was just following along with what you have on your list. We had 2 others that I was wondering if that's something you're going to add to it. One happened to be the manufactured homes in the River District.
Yeah, so and thank you for reminding me of that. That is one that we do need to add to the list. Thank you that you would remind me. Let me go through and explain these, and then I will tack that one on. What was the other one? What was the other one?
Something about the RV park has a code enforcement about the number of days you can be in there.
Yeah, I don't know. That did come up. That's one that I think presents enforcement challenges.
Okay.
But we can talk about that. So
that's fine. These are from my notes, so I will interrupt you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, I appreciate that. So parking code amendments. This is one that we had identified way back when. One of the things that I've had just in the last couple of weeks in pre-applications and development proposals, I've had a couple administrative variance requests for parking, or I've got one that will be coming, another one that will be coming forward. And it's interesting because if you look at the standard for parking generation is the ITE parking generation manual. It's Institute of Transportation Engineers. And so in looking at these, I've pulled up the ITE parking generation manual, and I found that in some cases, and in fact, we hear this kind of frequently from developers in many cases, our parking requirements are too restrictive, i.e. we have a maximum parking number that doesn't necessarily meet with the user's demand. I'll give you an example. In the industrial zone, we have a standard where if you have multiple shifts, you can have one parking space for every 2 employees per shift. Unless there's a lot of carpooling going on, that's problematic. And we do have a limit of 150% of the minimum parking requirements for parking. Beyond that, you have to go through an administrative variance. The flip side of it is that we've just looked at a larger warehousing operation where we found that the parking requirements that we have versus what the parking requirements in the trip generation manual are significantly greater than what would be required with this manual, and so that's antithetical to what we're trying to achieve, which is to the extent that we can to try and keep from requiring people to build oversized parking lots. Anyhow, so that may be something that we want to consider. We talked about that back in 2019 and haven't circled back with it yet. We've also had an elected official who suggested that we may want to revisit RV or mini storage in specific zones, possibly the C1 or C2 zones. So that may be something that we're asked to do this year. But again, as you brought up, one of the other things that we talked about is, and I wish I had let me see if I can pull up a map for you real quickly. Give me a second. I might not. I'm going to stop the share for just a second so that I can pull up this other map. There we go. Scout's a little slow when I'm trying to do this with while I'm zooming. So I want to point out on a map to you all. So let me just share this screen again. Can you see my map now? So this area this is the River District. I'm sure you all recognize it. There is an area south of East Mission Avenue and actually a little bit to the east of River Cross, or to the west of River Crossing East. So that down here south of the Mission Avenue and in here, where we have a number of manufactured homes. This was an area that was platted as individual lots with manufactured homes in the 70s, possibly even earlier than that, but when it was the unincorporated county. And we have some design standards within our code right now related to manufactured homes. Now, most of these homes, I don't know if all of them do, but a number of the plats actually have a CC&R that requires that it can only ever be manufactured homes. When someone goes to place a manufactured home, they have to meet certain standards. Today it has to be at least a double wide. It has to be set on a foundation, all fine standards. But we also have a design standard related to requiring them to have a garage or a carport on the lot if it is common within that neighborhood. Now, a number of these homes do have either shop buildings, garages, or carports, but they also were developed over a number of years. And what we seem to constantly be having a challenge with is people setting the home and not having the money and getting into a code enforcement situation because they can't afford to address the carport or garage requirement. They have to meet certain snow loads, etc. So it's not necessarily a simple thing. Long story short, it's an interesting requirement because design standards generally deal with aesthetic issues. And I'm not sure that anyone would argue that requiring somebody to install a carport is improving the aesthetics of their lot. But at the end of the day, it is a challenge, and it does, I believe, it may be a social equity issue, and that it may be an obstacle for people being able to relocate, to locate their manufactured homes on vacant lots within this area. And because the lots open up only sporadically, we only ever see 1 or 2 of these a year, but it's been an ongoing issue in the 4 years that I've been with the city. So that may be something that we want to revisit. Just a thought. The other one that Tim, you brought up that we discussed last time had to do with the Liberty Lake RV park. Now, one of the things I have to say is that we don't allow for RV parks anymore within our code. The Liberty Lake RV Park on Appleway was approved back in 2016 or 2017 as a conditional use permit. And shortly thereafter, the city changed their code and said, we don't want RV parks in our city. And so it's actually not allowed anywhere in the city. So one of the conditions of approval for this RV park was that the RVs could not stay in any one location for longer than 30 days. The challenge with that particular requirement is that it's private property. We can't go in and verify whether or not.
Thank you. Just do whatever you need to do. I don't know. I'll have to deal with it later.
Someone needs to mute themselves.
Okay, thank you.
So anyhow, so one of the challenges is it's private property. Unless we can go in and visually demonstrate that or provide, it's impossible to prove that they've not stayed in the same location for more than 30 days. If they take it and move it for even 1 day or for an hour, they drive it to someplace. It's long story short is that it providing proof that they have been there longer than 30 days in the same location is very difficult. It's difficult to provide the proof.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Would it be possible to have the manager of that trailer park provide the city with a statement saying that they are in compliance?
On a rotating basis? I mean,
on a regular basis, maybe every month or something like that. Ask them, just so that they don't forget about it, you know.
Oh, So it's because that would be a requirement that's after the fact.
I know.
Even to put that in, it would be grandfathered, they would be grandfathered. They're not,
I'm
the,
talking about I'm sorry, I was referring to the manager of the facility.
I understand what you're saying. The manager of the facility, feels put upon by the conditions that have already been placed upon him. He does not
Oh.
agree with the 30 days. He's not,
Oh, okay.
so it's not necessarily a, there's not necessarily a good neighbor sort of attitude with this particular developer owner.
I hear you. Okay.
So, good thought. Unfortunately, and because it's after the fact, it doesn't leave us with a lot of opportunities to do that. So,
my understanding, Lisa, what you're saying, we can't go in there and identify a unit that's not been moved for 3 or 4 months. We don't have any right to walk or drive into that property and do that.
that's correct. It's private property.
So even though they, by definition, can't be there more than 30 days, there's no way to even police or do anything with that, is what you're saying.
That is correct. That is correct. The other thing that I will say about that, if we get complaints about, and we have gotten complaints, we can deal with things like, oh, they've got outside storage, oh, there's refuse, this, that, and the other, that we can enforce on if it can be seen from the street or can be seen from someone else's facility. And we have gotten feedback from neighbors previously on that. So the neighbors have complained. We've been invited into their property so that we can take the picture, and then we've been able to enforce. But short of having, we don't have a right of access unless the owner wants to willingly allow us access.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but a conditional use permit is not permanent, isn't it?
It is permanent.
It is permanent,
It is permanent.
but he has a condition, meaning he can't allow anybody to stay over 30 days, which he is not complying with.
Yes, but here's the other thing, and the other thing I will share with you is that was requested by the city based upon our definition of an RV, and definitions in the code are not regulatory. So I can't even point to a regulation on which this is based.
So in effect, we've granted a monopoly to this owner
We did it
that we can't do anything about.
Well, not only a monopoly, we've also allows that this place could turn into a long-term, you can have units in there for years. And the resultant outcome of that could be very trashy looking. And I always refer to the one along the freeway over in Post Falls by the Walmart over there. You know, it's a horrible place, you know.
Supposedly because the owner does charge higher rents with the intention of, so this is intended to be a higher end RV park, which generates more revenues than the one that you're referring to. So I think that's kind of the relief valve. But we have had people who have been in there who have applied for home occupation permits that we have denied because it's not a home. It's not in a residential zone, and and they can't be occupying it. You know, so I do believe that we do have folks that are longer term stays in there. But at the end of the day, all we can do, we can enforce on physical trash, those sorts of things. There are specific things that would be outside of our maintenance code, et cetera. So
Lisa,
yes.
what's the penalty if the management company is not in compliance with that requirement?
So we would have to take it back to the hearing examiner and with the preponderance of evidence demonstrate that they're not meeting the conditions, in which case the hearing examiner would could withdraw the approval, and that would set in motion a lawsuit based upon the fact that there is significant capital investment based upon the conditions. And again, I have to have a preponderance of the evidence to be able to even make the case that is what is occurring here.
Well, I guess the point is that if the management company is not in compliance, it's a pretty substantial penalty, right?
It is potentially, but so just for what it's worth, I've been through some hearing examiner cases in the city of Spokane where they have attempted to withdraw conditional use approval. It's a pretty steep standard that you have to meet. It's very difficult because you're also looking at a situation where if I can't demonstrate beyond a reasonable doubt that not only are they in violation, but that the condition was valid based upon the code.
Yeah.
That's where I'm challenged with this.
I still think it might be worthwhile as a consideration to think about sending the management company a letter saying that we have reason to believe that you're in violation.
We have done a few of those, and we have tried to target.
How does he respond, or is there any response?
Sometimes. So he's responded where it is a matter of we've either had it's a nuisance where we're getting a lot of police calls, or whether there's in the situation where there's refuse and there's a lot of outside storage, or they've put on skirts that don't meet the standards, etc. They have been responsive. Generally speaking, when challenged with the 30-day rule for somebody who's been fairly compliant, they're like, well, how do you know that they didn't move the trailer? I'm like, I don't. I mean, short of having a surveillance camera or marking the tires or something like that.
I'll finish real quick, but I just think it's worthwhile just to have a document trail. Not to say you're going to enforce anything at this point in time, but just to have a document trail that says, "Hey, this is something we're concerned about." But anyway, go ahead.
So this may be one that, Lisa, obviously we shouldn't try to resolve it today. That's not the purpose of tonight's meeting. It's whether or not we put it on our agenda to do something. I think we need to visit that, maybe make sure that if we do put it on, we have the rights in the planning commission to have it on there, and not necessarily does it go to legal or city council or somebody else to go look at. But so let's just keep it there where it's there, but we're not going to resolve it today or during this meeting. I don't think it, nor should we try to do that.
Yes. Okay.
I'd just like to weigh in just briefly, and thank you, Richard. I do appreciate what you said. I was about to say pretty much the same thing. Because of plausible deniability, it is a very difficult thing to do. However, I just have this one question, which would lead to the further discussion that Richard is talking about, and that is, in the clause that is signed by the property owner, is there a statement to which they have to sign off on the responsibility to at least monitor? And is a statement like that something that can be required to be in a contract that kind of says we will at best possible monitor as best we can those RVs that utilize our.
So I think as Lisa said now and in the past is an RV by definition is less than 30-day stay. So that's where the 30-day stay comes from. It's not really in a law that says an RV park can't have them longer than 30 days. It's not in any of that kinds of stuff. It's a definition of what an RV park is versus like a mobile home park.
What an RV, specifically what an RV is. And our definition is not the same as the state definition. So that's number one. Number two, great thoughts, DG, in terms of things that you could have been potentially incorporated into conditions of approval that were not.
Right.
And so the ship has sailed on that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
If I can, real quick, just to hopefully try to tie a bow on it, because I think we're all we keep circling around this thing. So my in-laws, when they moved out to this area from the west side, they stayed over there. And I'll tell you what, for the time that we would go over there, it was a great place. It was very well maintained. The managers were on point with, as far as, any issues that were going on within the park itself. I think that if there's not really a way for us to enforce it, why don't we just potentially look at dropping that rule and kind of leaning on what we've been doing, which is when there's refuse issues or other issues where the police can in fact be called out because it is a private property, we treat it as such. I can tell you that the managers don't want anybody who's going to be hanging around there and affecting the park negatively, because the people who are there, particularly given our current climate, they are people who sold their house, cannot find a place to live, and have managed to find a place, a spot here while they're looking for another permanent residence. So it's just something to consider. I never saw any issues while we were in there, and that's just, my personal statement of my experience out there. But if it's something that is if there's an agreement that we can't enforce, then why do we bother with trying to enforce it if we're only dealing with situations that we can control, like refuse or situations of violence or anything like that, where the police do actually have to be called out?
And that's the operative word, situational. So when the
Correct,
situation occurs, so thank you, Stephen. That's operative. When the situation occurs, it's handled. If there's no situation noticeable, then life goes on.
Right.
Agreed.
And that is how we have dealt with it in the last several years. And again, there's not really an agreement, and that's the thing, that the conditions of approval were the things that the hearing examiner required in order for this development to be allowed. It's one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of conditional use permits, because conditional use permits tend to add a whole bunch of time and process and create enforcement challenges in the long run. Better that you provide good standards within your development code and rely on those. And like I said, we don't allow RV parks at all, conditional use or otherwise, anymore.
Let's move on to the next here.
Okay, so am I sharing my screen again? If I'm not, I want to.
You're not.
Okay. There we go. All right, so the last thing I wanted to indicate to y'all is that one of the things that we'll want to consider when we look at our final work program, or docket, if you will, for this year, are privately initiated comp plan and development code amendments for the year. I have heard several possible zone change, as well as several possible development code proposals that may be coming forward, privately initiated. The deadline for application is March 31st. And so we will go over where we're at our April meeting. And we can at that point decide which of the items that we have listed with the additional ones that we've discussed that we want to bring forward as our docket for this year. So more to come at our April meeting, because we'll have to weigh this against how much privately initiated proposals are coming forward. And so so with that, we are on to reports. And I had just, I did send this all out to you, so I'm not gonna, the thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit were the bullets, if I can find my secretary's report, because those probably require a little more explanation. So I did want to let you all know that, that we are actually in the process of doing a doodle poll with City Council to schedule a special meeting for the public hearing on Meadowwood Technology Campus. We're looking at 2 dates in March, either the 22nd or the 29th, non-council meetings, but they are Tuesdays. And so we should know by the council meeting, by Tuesday's council meeting, which date we're going with. And so that will be coming forward to City Council in March. Also, I wanted to share with you all that we have been actively recruiting for a senior planner position that was created in the 2022 budget. And pleased to say that we offered the position to someone who I have actually worked with before. She was an associate planner for me when I was with the city of Spokane. And she will be joining us in March. So as busy as we have been, that provides for some expanded capacity. So that's pretty exciting from our perspective. And we will definitely have her attend the March meeting so that y'all can meet her. The other thing that I just wanted to talk to you about was the comprehensive plan periodic update. And that is probably one of the most important functions of the Planning Commission, is the comp plan update. And then following that, subsequent to that, is a development code review to bring it into compliance with the updated comp plan. So we got some big lifts this year, as you know, based upon the housing bill that was passed last year as it relates to what we're going to need to look at in our housing element in this year. And so I thought I'd share with you that there's a lot of movement underfoot. So first of all, just the Spokane County Growth Management Committee. So basically it's the Spokane County elected officials. So that's from all jurisdictions. Mayor Kaminskas sits on that one. And the Planning Technical Advisory Committee, which is all the directors from the jurisdictions within the state, are tasked with the responsibility of looking at population growth projections and defining urban growth areas based on those, and also allocating the projected growth in the county by jurisdiction. And then that's the number that we use as kind of the foundation for our comprehensive plan under the Growth Management Act is. So we're planning to the population growth that's expected for our community. So those meetings have begun, and we're starting to talk about methodology for the land quantity analysis that we need to do countywide, which serves as a basis for trying to look at how we allocate population. In terms of the housing element, which is really a particular specific outcrop of the Growth Management Act and the recent housing amendments. So I wanted to report to you that Commerce Department has begun to work on the methodology for projecting housing needs by income category. And that they're targeting to have the methodology done by August of 2022. They're also anticipating providing final projected housing needs at the county level, stratified by income level, by December of 2022. And they're also talking about providing recommendations for reviewing capacity and policies for housing codes. So some guidance on how we're going to need to address our housing element. That's going to be by February of 2023. And they're targeting completion of county-wide housing profiles by May of 2023. So that all is foundational to our comp plan. As you all are aware, the comprehensive plan update is due in 2025. As I've talked previously to you, the population estimates and the housing methodology is going to be foundational to our beginning to really dig into that. There are some other elements that are also going to be coming out. There is a new requirement for climate resiliency. So that's a new element, and we'll begin looking at that also. The heavy lift for the comp plan update is probably not going to hit you all until we'll start talking about it in 2023 in preparation and trying to define our work program to get to the 2025 adoption. And so I wanted to share that all with you because as we look at our work program this year, recognizing that there's likely to be a shift to focus on the comp plan moving forward in 2023. So does anybody have any questions on that? Well, you guys are easy.
Yeah, Lisa. My big question, honestly, just centers around more of the definition of what they mean by resiliency as it pertains to housing. Does that mean the housing market's ability to deal with the ebb and flow of just real estate in general, or do we really not know yet? So
the term climate resiliency doesn't apply to housing, it applies to the comp plan.
Hello?
Hi. So climate resiliency is really looking at. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you not hear me?
No, I can now. I think I froze, and then you, like everybody else, just came back. So I'm sorry about that.
So just to start again, the focus is on climate resiliency. The term resiliency does not apply to housing.
Gotcha. Okay.
So two separate elements. Housing element is going to be a big lift. Climate resiliency is going to be a big lift. Housing, because we've always had a housing element, but this is going to be a much more robust housing element than what has been required in the past. The resiliency piece is dealing with climate resiliency and really looking at issues like everything from energy efficiency to what are more significant storm events going to mean for some of our critical environmental regulations for floodplain management, et cetera. We are a very fortunate city in that we have virtually no floodplains other than part of the Trailhead Golf Course and two small areas that are both public open space for homeowners associations, one in the River District and one south of the golf course. But in both those cases, or in all those cases, this is based upon what may be dated data. Sorry about that.
Out of date data.
It makes sense, but it sounds funny.
It does sound funny. It does indeed. And so we base like our definition of floodplains and flood areas on what's called a 100-year storm. Challenge is that just to give you an example, we've had probably 500-year storms in the last 3 years.
Right.
So anyhow, that's the challenge that we face. And what the requirements are, again, Commerce is just now, I see some webinars starting to come out on what they're thinking about it, but Commerce is going to be coming out with some guidance on what their expectations are as it relates to that. Not very well defined right now. The good news for us is that so the state is divided into 2 different cycles for comprehensive plan updates. And there's a bunch of folks on the west side of the state that have their comp plan updates due in 2024. So we're gonna actually have some good examples.
Yeah.
And the guidance has to be out for them. So we'll get a little bit of lead time for that. So that's all good news.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Yeah, just 2 comments. Rather than floods, I'd be more concerned about wildfire.
That
When
is
you look
part
at-
of it also. I'm using floods as the example, but yes, that's part of it also.
When you look at what happened outside of, what was it, Boulder, Colorado, that is pure frightening. That's very disturbing. And
I agree.
and the other comment was that, is there any, would there be any discussion about annexations?
So just to be clear, annexations can only occur in the urban growth area. We have basically grown into, with the last Central Valley School District annexation, we have basically filled out all of our urban growth area except for a small triangle of property that is on the just south of our property on Liberty, or our corporate boundaries on Liberty Lake Road. There's a little triangle on the.
I think I saw that on the
side.
map. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have no interest. It's already developed, and they have no interest in annexing.
Sure. Okay.
The reality is that we're kind of bound in a lot of ways geographically. To the south of us, it's already developed. There's no point in expanding the urban growth boundary there. And frankly, the folks around the lake don't want to be part of the city. They did not want to be incorporated in 2001, and I don't think anything has changed. We have a pretty significant topographic challenge on our eastern border, and on the north side of the river, there's a potential for that to go into urban growth, but it is probably more. It would probably make more sense for that to be handled by the valley if it becomes an urban growth area in the future. Just because there are challenges to getting sewer. It's not impossible, but there are challenges to getting sewer over there. Water's not an issue. But in order for an area to become an urban growth area, there has to be master planning for the urban utilities, sewer and water.
Gotcha. Okay.
The challenge is that we're not a sewer and water purveyor, so we're kind of that's left to others to basically express their willingness or lack thereof to include that in an urban growth area. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Any other questions? I did want to just share with you, our next meeting is March 9th, and our agenda items for the next meeting are we will have, I've provided you just a little thumbnail 2021 in review in the secretary's report I emailed out this afternoon. But Megan is working on some detailed development statistics for you to show what happened in 2021. We also are going to be giving you a presentation regarding the adopted 2022 through 2027 capital facilities plan, because I think it's really foundational to everything that we're doing to understand what's coming forward in the city and the projects that are going on. And then also, I hope to give you an update on docket items for the comp plan and development code amendments that are being privately initiated. I hope to at least have a better feel for who's for real as opposed to who was just kicking tires. Anyhow, so that's it for me, unless you have any questions. And if not, it's time for commissioners' reports.
I don't have any. Do we have any commissioner reports at all today?
Not me.
Okay, we do have a couple of citizens in our audience today, Mr. Cronin and Ms. Binion. Do you guys have any comments you'd like to share with the Planning Commission?
This is Greg Cronin. I'd like to make a comment or two if I could.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Greg Cronin. I am a resident of Liberty Lake. And a couple of things of interest. And I guess one of my challenges, if I ask a question, is that okay? And you guys might not even want to be able to answer it, but even if you could send me in the appropriate direction, it might help. But one is, my impression is that Stonehill has sold. And so that there's another developer going in and working on that. And so I'm just wondering if there's any changes there.
So I can actually answer that. A great question. Yes, it's sold. It's sold to a nationwide residential developer, Lennar Homes. Funny story. My mom and dad live in North Carolina, and they bought a Lennar home 10 years ago and love it.
Awesome. Okay.
So, actually, they're going to be giving a little presentation to City Council on March 1st. So tune into that. They're not proposing any changes. I will say a couple things that you should know is that Stonehill did keep the commercial parcels that were part of Lakemore Edition, and they kept most of Hawkstone First Edition with the exception of a couple lots. Lennar bought Hawkstone Second Edition, Third Edition, and the balance of the project. We've already met with them on several occasions, and they are moving forward, and they're kind of getting their feet on the ground right now, but they're ready to rock and roll, and hoping to build this out in a very timely manner. We have, so just so you are aware, Hawkstone Second Edition, the final plat was approved back in 2020, I think, 2021. Anyhow, it's got to be, they're going to be completing the infrastructure. So sewer, water, and dry utilities are already in, but they're going to be putting in the rest of the infrastructure and bringing that forward. That's already final platted. Hawkstone Third Edition, we have the final plat ready for approval, conditioned upon the remediation of the illegal excavation of the hillside that the former owner did. That is in process. Lennar is aware of it. They're working on remediating that and are anxious to get Hawkstone Third Edition final platted as well. For what it's worth, the infrastructure, the sewer, water, and dry utilities are also in Hawkstone Third Edition. So they'll move pretty quickly through that as well. The balance of it, we are expecting infrastructure plans and a final plat in the coming month or two. And so we'll begin reviewing that as well. So these guys are really ready to rock and roll on building out that development, which is such great news for the residents over there.
Very good. Thank you so much, Lisa. That was great.
Lisa, as a follow-up to Mr. Cronin's question, you know how many homes will go in there, but based on all those plats?
I'm sorry, how many homes?
Yeah.
I would have to go back and look at that. My apologies, because there's a whole bunch that have already been constructed.
Yeah.
I know that overall they were approved for 900 and some units. but that includes the multifamily that
Yeah.
backs up against the city boundary, as well as the condos and the 55 plus that they have going in Lakemore Edition and Hawkstone First Edition.
Thank you.
So it's, I'm, if I was to take a swag, I'd probably say 450, but it's really just, it's just a guess.
Lisa, is it okay if I continue with a couple more?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the next thing is, and this might refer to Jen, it looks like Jen is still on. But so I see signs pop up every once in a while. I'll call them temporary signs. They normally go into the green space that goes along the major streets or corners. And like currently there's some yellow ones that are advertising solar. And is that really, my impression is that is not allowed by the city. Am I right on that, or?
You are correct. That is not allowed. Those are off-premise temporary signs. The only signs that we allow in the right of way are public event A boards. So those are not allowed. You can call them in. Our street crews, when they see them, will pick them up and we'll call the owner so that they can come pick up their illegal signs.
Okay.
But so yeah, so you just need to let us know and we will get it taken care of.
Okay. Okay. Does it help you guys if I pick them up and bring them down to City Hall for you? Or is it like you need to actually see them in place?
I think it's, I think it's fine if you pick them up, if you know for a fact that it's right away, but I will say this about that. And we see this every year during election season. It's really confusing to know what's in public right of way and what's on private property. And
Okay.
I myself have to like go look at it, take and then look at Scout and measure where the edge of right of way is from the back of sidewalk and whatnot, because it's really quite confusing.
Okay. I will avoid trying to help. I will call. Okay.
Calling helps too. So I appreciate that.
All right. The next possibility that I would like to ask is, could videos be posted of these meetings after the meeting so that others could look at them? And one is like today, I didn't know that I was going to be able to make this meeting. And so I would have liked to have a video if I wasn't able to do that. And I also think if a commissioner misses a meeting, it gives them an opportunity to review it, as well as city council. So it's just something I'd like to ask for your consideration.
I have had that request by city council, and hopefully when you logged on today, you got that message that this meeting is being recorded.
Okay, I don't recall it, but that doesn't mean anything. So. And then the last thing is you guys were talking about the RV park. This just popped into my mind, and you might all be aware of this, but police department hired a new officer that is drone certified. And so I'm thinking what that probably means is that the police department wants to get a drone, but I didn't know if that would be a way of doing legal surveillance on the RV park, but maybe a consideration.
I don't know the answer to that, and I would.
That's okay.
defer
You don't
to
have
Chief
to.
Simmons on that, because I'm not sure whether or not I almost think that you still need to have a search warrant to fly over somebody's property.
Yeah, and that's fine. It was just something that came to mind, and I will back up the comment that I have been in there a couple of times, and the place is immaculate. I'll even say awesome. One couple from Virginia, they had said it was the best park they'd ever stayed in. So my compliment to the owners. And those were the only things that I had. Thank you so much, all of you, for listening and the responses.
Any other citizen comments?
So Rick, if I may, I did want to, we didn't get a chance to introduce staff today, but Michelle Binion is on the call, and Michelle is actually our new planning, engineering, and building service technician. So
that's right. We learned about her last week, or last meeting.
okay. So yeah, so she is she is, Michelle is not a citizen, but a staff person, so.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's all unless anybody else has any comments they'd like to make before we close.
So we need to call for adjournment. That's
Okay,
the,
can I get someone to move that we adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
And all in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that's it for our February meeting.
Thanks, everyone.
Look forward to March and the rest of the year.
thank you all.
Next month. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.